Hey, welcome to Leading with Gratitude Live. I'm your host, Chester Elton, the Apostle of Appreciation. This is our special teaser edition. I want to introduce you to my good friend, Peter Bregman. He's the CEO of Bregman Partners. He's an incredible coach. He's an incredible author. And I just wanted to give you 10 minutes with the incredible Peter Bregman to talk to you about leading with emotional courage. Now, Peter's going to be on for 30 minutes tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, to really take a deep dive into what it means to lead with emotional courage. So welcome to the show, Peter.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really fun to be here.
You know, time with you is always time well spent. I love the videos you put up on LinkedIn, and I love your philosophy around leading with emotional courage. And I know it's also been a big part of now your burgeoning CEO coaching business. So talk to me first about leading with emotional courage. What does that mean? And why is it so important that you've now gone one-on-one with some of the biggest CEOs, biggest corporations in the world to teach them this principle?
So when we spend a lot of time developing our knowledge, developing our skill, developing our capability, like trying to be great leaders. Like everybody that I work with, everybody that you work with, they want to be good leaders.
Right.
And yet there's this massive gap that we've talked about as an industry, as thought leaders for a long time, which is the knowing-doing gap, right? What is the gap between what you know and what you do? And anybody who's like eaten more than they should eat at a buffet knows that gap, right? It's like, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I know I should probably not go back up for thirds of ice cream fudge, but I'm doing it anyway. So like there's this gap between what we know and what we do. And it affects every element. Like what I say actually with most people that I coach, and what's true for myself is we all know way more than we follow through on. Like everybody I've coached knows enough about leadership. Nobody needs to learn more about leadership. But to actually follow through and execute on what they know is much harder. And here's the example I like to give, Chester. Think of a difficult conversation you're not having. So you should have this difficult conversation, but you haven't followed through on it. And I'm not going to make you say it out loud, but do you have one in your mind?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, and everybody who's listening and watching right now, for yourselves, think about a difficult conversation you're not having. We all have them. And now, consider why you're not having it, right? And I'm willing to bet that you know everything you need to know to have that conversation, that you're perfectly capable of having that conversation, and that you've had time and opportunity to have the conversation. So that's what we usually try to solve for. We try to develop our skills and our capability. We try to grow our knowledge. We watch YouTube videos or read books, or we try to like manage our time. I've written books about managing time. Like try to manage our time, and we think if we solve for all of those things, and by the way, we do this at a corporate level. At a corporate level, we develop training programs around change management, in order to educate people, in order to help them have the knowledge and skill and capability in order to follow through, we try to manage their projects in such a way that they have time to do it. And yet those are not the reasons we don't follow through. We don't follow through for lack of skill, knowledge, capability, time, or opportunity. The reason we don't follow through is that there's something we don't want to feel. If you have that hard conversation, you're going to have to feel something. You might feel their anger. You might feel your own anger. You might feel shame when they come back at you, or defensiveness, or that weird, uncomfortable, passive aggressiveness that happens, when they smile and they go, wow, thank you for the feedback. And then you don't talk to them. Like, if you follow through in that conversation, there's a number of things you may feel and you don't want to feel them. And because you don't want to feel them, you don't follow through. And this is the key idea behind the book. If you are willing to feel everything, if you're willing to feel shame and embarrassment and anger and defensiveness and the passive aggressiveness, if you're willing to feel everything, then you can do anything. Then you can follow through on everything. Figuring out the knowledge, skill, capability, that's the easy part.
It's so interesting as you say that. I think, how often have I said, you know what, I just know, even though it's a conversation we should have, it's going to get out of control. Feelings are going to be hurt. It's better off that we not have it. Yeah, right. You rationalize the way so you're even though it should be constructive, it's going to go badly. And so that's your out, right? That it'd be better to not have the conversation.
Well, and what's interesting, Chester, Apostle of Appreciation,
yeah,
is that That's true also for sharing gratitude with people. That like, I don't, like we're going to feel a little awkward, or we're going to feel like maybe they're going to think we're after something, or there's so many psychological reasons, emotionally challenging reasons why we don't do the thing that seems so obvious to do, which is to express gratitude and appreciation. And we don't do it for fear of what we might feel. So it's not just like the challenging conversations. It's what seems like the nice conversations, but we might still feel awkward about it, or we might feel like we're, sucking up to someone, or we might feel like they'll misunderstand us, and we don't follow through on this like basic thing that all of your research shows. And what's obviously true is God, lead with gratitude.
So how do you get people to get over all that emotion? How do you get people to be that vulnerable? Because that is really hard.
Right. So should I make them wait until like the full thing tomorrow?
Give us one tip.
So it's a muscle. Emotional courage is a muscle. And in order to develop emotional courage, the muscle, you have to work it. So the best way to begin to develop it is try little steps. Try doing things that feel a little wonky to you. You're like, and actually gratitude and appreciation is a great way of doing that, right? Because, we might still feel a little weird, but we kind of know it's going to be good. So like think about something that someone's done for you and literally go out of your way, right? Don't just do it in passing. Go out of your way to maybe call them up or even text them. But I think calling them up would be better, to speak to them and say, hey, you did this thing for me and it really touched me and I appreciate that. And you're going to feel stuff. I promise you, when you do that, you're going to feel stuff, and go slowly enough that you feel everything, because as you feel it, you're going to be developing it.
It's so interesting. So do you encourage the executives that you coach to like keep an emotional diary, an emotional log?
It's actually a very interesting idea. I tend to be, like when I'm coaching leaders, I try to integrate everything into the work that they're doing. I try not to add any work. So, like when they have, when we're debriefing a conversation, or we're prepping for a conversation, or, we'll talk tomorrow about commitment for purpose, which is a really big piece. And like, how do you as a leader drive through what's most important to the organization? And when you're preparing for that, it's more about preparing to feel the things you might feel and being willing to follow through in the context of feeling it. So I'll slow them down in our conversation. I'll push them in our conversation, but it's all related to the work they have to do anyway. So I'm not like training them in emotional courage. I'm just helping them develop it as they're leading.
Excellent. Well, Stephen Schuler is going to join us tomorrow. He said, a conversation with two positive yet realistic authors. Count me in. We'll see you tomorrow, Stephen. We've got about 30 seconds left. Give me one way that you've led with emotional courage, not just in business, also at home. And then we'll invite everybody to join us tomorrow.
I was in the gondola in Jackson Hole skiing with my family, and I had everybody trapped for, a good 7 or 8 minutes while we were going up. And I said to my 3 kids, all right, guys, tell me one thing you like about me as a father and one thing I can get better at as a father. Whoa. And I got a little, and they laughed. I was like, no, I'm really serious. Like I want a 360 here. I want some feedback about what I'm doing that you like, what I'm doing that you don't like so much or you wish I changed. And it took emotional courage for me to ask it. It took emotional courage for them to tell me, but it was kind of awesome.
You know what? That is great. What I love about Peter's work is emotional courage. He talks about, look, he'll coach you to be a better leader. And by the way, he's one of the world's leading executive coaches. So when he talks, I listen. The other thing that I love about your work is they say, I'll help you to become a better leader and I'll help you become a better person. And I love that about your work. Well, Peter, we've gone over our 10 minutes by 40 seconds. I knew we would. It's always too much fun to talk to you. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time, tune in for Leading with Gratitude Live. I'm your host, Chester Elton, the apostle of appreciation. And this is Peter Bregman. His title would be just all-around amazing coach and author. I hope you'll join us. Take care, everybody. Christy, take us out. And by the way, it takes a minute, Peter, so don't pick your nose.